all my other windows away. I forget how much I miss multiple desktops until I go away from it.
That's one of the first things I do on any Windows machine.
$246. Yeah, it just blows my mind how much I miss it when I don't have it. 246.
Check 1, 2, 3. Audio check.
Checkity check check check. It just blows my
Still
mind.
checking and talking and letting sound proceed from this orifice.
Check 1, 2, 3. Audio check.
There you go. Checkity check check check. It just blows my
Still
mind
checking and talking and letting sound proceed from this orifice.
Check 1, 2, 3. Audio check.
There you go.
Seth, you were clipping a little bit. Can you lower your?
And mixer. No. But I haven't changed anything.
I believe you.
It sucks when that happens, doesn't it?
Crap, where is that audio? Sound, maybe. Playback, recording.
That happens, doesn't it?
Configure.
Actually, it seems to have self-adjusted, so never mind.
Yay. Sound, maybe.
Go Skype with the auto adjust.
Yeah.
It took pity upon me. Ooh, a minivan quest. There you go, Mark.
Minivan quest?
Yeah, because if you rent from Hertz, there's one here in Canton. And I know you can pick up at one place and drop off at another. Surely there's a place in Atlanta that we could drop it off.
I don't know that a minivan would do it, though.
You don't think so?
I don't know.
Take out the seats or fold the seats down and...
Yeah.
So you wouldn't be able to take the seats out if you're going to drop it off somewhere.
Well, they usually fold down.
Depends on the vehicle.
Yeah, or a Toyota 4Runner.
Or we could just trust that it's not going to rain and do a pickup, but
Ooh.
this is Atlanta.
Right.
All right.
Say if it was my luck, I wouldn't even debate that one because my luck is horrible.
Alrighty, let's anybody in the chat room to alert that not a person.
No, not a soul.
No reason to even bother with that. All right, let's let me do the preemptive. My Skype machine has crashed every week. I mean, not the Skype machine, but the Audacity machine. Ever since I moved here, every time I've done a show, I've done 2 for you and 2 the other one, and it's crashed every time. So I don't know why I even bother, frankly. But I'm going to do it anyway. I think it's the heat. I think it's just overheating.
Oh.
At the bottom of the news section, doing a kind of an internet safety show in a couple of weeks and using those and kind of doing it in the context of news stories.
All right.
Maybe not next week, but maybe the week after.
Because you said something for next week.
Well, yeah, I think that's what it was.
Was this it? Okay. I didn't look at it. I just saw that you suggested something for next week.
Or honestly, I don't remember what I suggested. Because
it was Twitter has no
Twitter
obligation. Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be next week. And then this could be the week after. Because maybe, I don't know. It's just thoughts.
Yeah.
So I throw them out there and, they clang silently on the ground a little. And
Okay, let's start recording. You already are,
Mm-hmm.
and now I is too, and I've done the power off, and all right, here we go. Let me get to where I can see, and the camera's on me for the 0 people who are watching, and we need a title. What did I say? A plethora of
bevy.
news.
You said bevy.
I think we've actually done plethora before. Bevy 1V or 2?
Let Google decide.
Yeah, I'd say the Google spelling is better than mine.
It is a single V. I don't know why I was thinking 2. I have become so dependent on the double click to select a whole word that it frustrates me when it's not accurate. It's like, what do you know? That's not what I wanted to select. You're supposed to know intuitively that when I double click, that's what I want.
My Android keyboard, I will type the word with, and it will auto-correct it to 28 every freaking time.
Really?
I'm like, what the heck?
Well, 2 is W, so, all right. I guess that makes sense. Mine, I forget which word it was. I think it's and. There's some common everyday word that every time I type it, it gives me tits. Every time. To the point where I have removed tits from the dictionary, but it keeps coming back because it thinks that's what I'm typing.
Huh.
I mean, I guess I use that word way too often. Can't imagine when, but whatever. All right.
Maybe somebody hijacked your account, and that's they're
You're
typing it
quoting
in all the time.
Anchorman. Tits McGee is out.
Do you guys not have lower thirds on, or am I just not seeing them?
I had mine on.
Okay.
Did it turn it off?
Well, no, it's just Hangouts has just decided not to function in large quantities lately, so I don't know. Okay, here we go. Making a marker and starting. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GeekRant, episode 246, a bevy of news, recorded July 17th, 2016, and brought to you by Element OP Productions, elementop.com. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the show where we get our geek on. This is the GeekRant, and I am your host, Mark, the Sultan of the Soapbox Cockerel, and joining me this week, as always, are your 2 stalwart co-hosts, Chris, the Command Line Godfather Neves, and Seth, the Gooey Kid Anderson. Hello, gentlemen.
Hey, Mark, Seth, and everyone out there in Internet land. It's been one heck of a week.
And a big Texas howdy to everybody else.
All right.
Sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
Well, it's good to be back with you guys. Today just feels like a weird day. I don't know why, but it seems like it's affecting you guys too. That something's just not quite right. I don't know what. We had a heavy storm here yesterday, as we frequently do, being in the area where we are. Lots of rain, lots of storms. But my neighbor had this massive, probably 70-year-old tree in their front yard. It was huge, and it was a big forked trunk. Like one part went straight off, and one part moved, like maybe 70 degrees kind of thing. Well, the giant 70-degree part fell in the storm.
Whoa.
And fell to the point, it was the most amazing thing. They have this really nice swing on their front porch area that's kind of like a big cedar pergola over it. It's not just something you'd go to Walmart and get. And of course, they had a couple of cars in the driveway. The thing fell exactly right and missed everything, and the smallest of the twigs brushed the glass front door, but nothing went through it. It was the very perfect scenario. I mean, for a tree falling, it was the absolute best way. I mean, they had to go out the back door because they couldn't get out because there was, 1,000 pounds of wood there. But otherwise, they came out completely unscathed. And it was just one of the most amazing things to watch when I looked out there. And if the tree had grown another year, it would have been a foot longer and would have broken through their front door. Right. But it was exactly just right.
That's man, they better go out and buy some lottery tickets. Fate's looking at them that well.
Yeah, and it missed everything of importance other than a mess. they had to get out there with some chainsaws and clean some stuff up, and it made a mess. But otherwise, and they went ahead and took the whole tree down, and that made me sad to see that giant tree go. Mainly because I have trees the same size and age, and they may be falling on my house soon. Totally changed the look of their front yard too. It's amazing how, because when you got a big tree like that, the grass doesn't grow under it, and there's always this sort of brown spot. Well, now there's this big brown spot where obviously a tree used to be and a stump, but no tree.
What side of the house was it on?
Front.
North, south, east, west. What is that?
That would be one of those directions. I am directionally challenged. Let's see if I can work it out in my head. So when I leave for work, I make a right, and then another, and then I make a left, and that's heading south. So it would be the east.
Then it won't. It'll get brighter in their house earlier, but it won't affect the cooling bill too much.
No, it won't be a terrible thing.
That's crazy.
Anyway, that has nothing to do with this show or anything about it. I just thought it was kind of neat. One of those, one in a billion kind of things that everything could have landed just right. I mean, obviously losing a giant chunk of tree is not a good thing, but it was the best case, worst case scenario possible.
Right.
Right.
I had some friends come over from Texas yesterday. Their kid plays travel ball, and so they were down in Florida from Katy near Houston, Texas. And they were headed up to Branson for a vacation, and Atlanta's not quite in between there, but they made it in between there. So they came in at like 5 o'clock Saturday night, stayed overnight, and left at about 8 o'clock this morning. So it wasn't exactly a long stay, but it was nice to get to hear a friendly accent. That was
right.
Nice. What about you guys? Anything interesting this weekend?
Not really. Been pretty quiet around up here. We've been pelted with hail, but other than the hail and the 50-mile-plus-per-hour winds, it's been pretty normal.
I kind of know not to ask you, Chris, but I'll ask Seth. Have you seen the new Star Trek movie, Seth?
I have not seen it yet.
Okay.
It's on my to-do list. I do want to see it, but no, I've not seen it yet. This is a weird weekend for me because for the first time in almost 6 months, I worked a full week of work, and so 40 hours with some overtime, and I have to get up at a regular job time Monday. So I don't know. Maybe that's why I'm off. Is I was actually a working man this last week.
That could be.
That's that's hard to get used to, going from being a bum to a working man. So I feel you.
Yeah, and and then afterwards, who knows what life holds. And there's a 5K on the 30th that I want to run, but it's going to be hard because I've been running once or twice a week, so I don't think I'll do 40 minutes on this 5K. But I haven't. Physically, I've kind of given up, but mentally, I haven't given up on my 5K a month thing yet.
You can do it, man. You're halfway through the year. Don't give up now.
You might as well. Yeah, you might as well. You're over halfway through the year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I say, so I'm going to run tonight when I get home, and then once either probably Tuesday, because I work my last overnight thing for my Walmart contract on Wednesday, and then Saturday I'll get out there and huff and puff and try not to die of a heat stroke Saturday morning when I run.
All right, let us know how that goes. Seriously, I want you to keep doing that because that has been inspirational to me. Not that I've actually made any changes to my life in any way as a result of it, but I feel good about it.
Yeah. Well, and like in June, I didn't get to run an official 5K because I had it scheduled for the Saturday that my mom died Friday night beforehand. So, but I pulled out a Run Keeper, and I turned it on, and I ran around my driveway 3.22 miles and took a screenshot and posted it online with the distance and the time. So
and that totally counts.
Yeah. So, and I might just end up doing that again because that's a little cheaper than paying to register in a race. So, but I know that makes my time slower because, you know, I mean, granted, I can't win a 5K because the last one I did officially, there were people who did the 10K faster than I did the 5. But it's still that competition that forces you to try to do better, at least with me. And so when there's other people running, even though I lose by 10, 20 minutes or more, it's still I want to do better because there's other people there. And so
what I think people need to do is they always do the age bracket. And you can be number one in your age bracket.
Yeah,
There's
buddy.
weight bracket, exactly. I want to see, weight class. In the super heavyweight class.
Yeah, you know,
I like it.
6 of a ton and over. I would gold every time.
And then, of course, a lot of people wouldn't want to admit that, but there's a race here called the Donut Dash, I think it is.
Yeah, we had that in January.
Yeah.
Donut Dash, I like it.
It's something like that. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's something like that. And like at a lot of it's a full. It's not a marathon. Is it a marathon? I think it's a full marathon. And you know they have water stations along the way, but at every water station there's like dozens of donuts too.
Yeah,
like it.
in Dallas, there's the Hypnotic Donut Company, and their donuts are kind of hypnotic. So they put on the Hypnotic Donut Dash, and you don't have water stations, you have donut stations, and they happen to have water there. And there's donut holes at everything, and so you get a couple of donut holes in the thing of water, and go on to your next one. I was proud of myself. I didn't stop for any of the donuts. I just got water. But of course, at the end, I figure, okay, I've ran. Now I've earned the right to eat.
Yeah.
So
I wonder which one of those is a ripoff of the other one.
I don't know. What it could be the same company. I'm sure that
Or maybe they just spontaneously had the same idea.
Or maybe
that happens.
Everything you just said I thought was something that happened here. That I might have dreamed it. That happens.
There could be the Great Donut Dash Committee, and in Dallas it's the Hypnotic Donut Dash, and in Atlanta it's the it's the Fatty Donut Dash or whatever the donut company there is.
It's the donut conference. Sure. Yeah, the Big 12 of donuts. One quick thing before we move on, I had a podcast listener send me an email Monday morning and said, "Hey, I'm in town for 48 hours for work. Would you like to meet up for lunch?" So, Richard, thanks for buying me lunch.
Oh.
It was the coolest thing. I really like. It's kind of a blessing and a curse when people do that, because I don't know. Generally speaking, I'm not entirely convinced anybody who would want to listen to me for 3 hours a week or so is actually sane. So there's there's some double-edged sword there. So I told my boss, look, I'm going to take an extra long lunch today. There's this guy. Here's the thing. And if I'm not back in a couple of hours, I need you to come looking for me. But turns out Richard was just insane enough to enjoy my company, but not so insane as to want to dismember me. So thank you, Richard, for lunch. Anybody else who finds themselves in the Atlanta area, it is a Delta hub, so lots of people are there. I'd love to meet up with you. I really enjoy meeting up with people and finding out that, I'm not going to say we're changing lives or anything, but we're entertaining you, and that's good enough.
Yeah.
That's a pretty noble goal, and I'm happy to know that we're meeting it.
That's pretty cool. I like it.
Yeah. It bought me lunch, didn't dismember me. It was a good day.
Yeah.
All right. Now, having heard that from Richard, let's hear from a couple of other listeners. Owen offers some insight on Vivaldi. He says, "Hi, guys. A few quick comments. In this episode, number 245, Mark asked if man should return to the moon. My answer is a resounding no. Why provoke the aliens who told us to leave and never return? I mean, that is what happened, right?" Okay, now that I've had my fun, I will offer some non-facetious feedback. On a recent episode, and my apologies for not remembering the number, Seth mentioned the Vivaldi browser and his interest in possibly taking it for a spin. As one who uses the browser since it was still in beta, I thought I would offer my experience. On the whole, I like Vivaldi and find it to be a reasonably fast and functional way to interface with the internet. There are some features I really like, such as the ability to view 2 web pages at once. A large screen is needed to fully appreciate this, however. On Windows 7 and 10, I've encountered no real problems, but on OpenSUSE Leap and Mint Cinnamon, I have found sporadic rendering issues. In fact, on elementop.com, there's a problem that causes all 6 podcast description boxes, which should only be visible when hovering over the individual icons, to be displayed on top of the web page. In turn, this obscures some of the icons and causes the play button for the most recent episode to be inaccessible. Vivaldi isn't my daily driver, but with continued improvements, it very well could become that. There's a lot to like, but there's also work to be done. Of course, my opinion, in $2 will get you a tall dark roast at Starbucks, so there's that. Thanks for the time, and it's good to have you back with live content, Owen.
Yeah, I gotta say his comment must have been before the most recent price increase at Starbucks. So, but no, thanks, Owen. The person who is somebody who's on the Vivaldi team reached out to me, and my goal is to get them on a show sometime when we do a more technology theme thing, and and they can just talk about Vivaldi and how every browser sucks and why we need another one. So I think that would be a cool show at some point in the future.
And if I remember correctly, Vivaldi is the Chromium engine with some special Chrome around it. Is that right?
Sure, we'll go with that.
That was my experience. That was my experience with it when I played with it for about 3 weeks. It just, if you load it up with all the plugins that you would load up Firefox or Chrome with, it ended up being in about the same place. So no big change for me, but your mileage may vary.
All right, and we have a voicemail from an unknown, unidentified caller. It's a mystery.
Ooh.
And he says that he has solved the Mars problem.
Hey, Mark. Chris, I got a simple solution for your Mars problem.
Yeah, we can't hear it, Mark.
You don't hear it?
Barely.
It's really very weak.
The only place you can get a Mewtwo is on the surface of Mars, and someone will be
How's
there
that?
next week. Problem solved.
All right. Well, I will just put that in there later, and you will hear it and laugh. He says, hey, I got a simple solution for the Mars problem. Nintendo just has to say that the only place you can get a Mewtwo is on the surface of Mars, and we'll be there in a week.
Unfortunately, I mean, that is probably true. Have you seen the stories? Like, there was a head-on collision, and the guy going the wrong way was playing Pokemon Go while he was driving.
Yep.
So,
yeah, it's sad that Pokemon Go is going to cause somebody to get hurt.
And well, let's put blame where blame is. That's not a Pokemon Go problem. That's a human wetware problem. In that,
definitely.
we're idiots. In mass, we're super idiots. I've read stories about a guy stopping in the middle of traffic to get out of his car and go chase a Pokemon. My kids discovered the app. Of course, it requires GPS, so it doesn't work on the tablets. But my oldest has a phone, and she found that apparently some of the Pokemon are fans of this podcast because there were 3 of them in my studio.
Oh.
And there's a gym up the street, and so I don't know what that means, but apparently it's a good thing. So they've been walking around chasing the little critters. And I love how businesses have gotten onto it. There's an ice cream place up the street that's got Pokemon flavors. Like there's a Pikachu. It's a scoop of vanilla ice cream and a scoop of lemon sorbet, so it kind of looks like Pikachu with the white belly and the yellow. And they put a face on it with sprinkles and stuff. And if you show them a rare Pokemon, you get $1 off your order. So they're really milking it up. They've got lures spread out. I'm not sure what that means, but my kids said that they had put lures around the area, so they're increasing foot traffic. So I think it's a clever way to mix the virtual and the real, but just don't be stupid about it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I wasn't trying to blame Pokemon Go on that, but it's just a simple people. It's amazing if we were to go back in time 2,000 years. And we'll even just say 3,000. So let's go back in time 3,000 people, 3,000 years, and look at all those silly, primitive natives who carried this stone around and worshipped it and thought it could produce rain and, make their lives happy and save their children and bless their cave with increase. And we would say, look at those stupid cavemen who don't know any better. But fast forward 3,000 years, and we have this plastic silicon hunk of garbage that we look at and run into people and out of stuff. So, I mean, we have not changed in 3,000 years. We still worship gods of wood, hay, stone, and stubble. So, let's carry on with Religion Weekly.
There you go.
Seth and I said the same thing. I just said it differently. I said people are stupid, and that hasn't changed.
Yeah.
And I haven't figured out what you can't pay for anything in Pokemon Go, can you?
Yeah.
Is there downloadable content and stuff?
Yeah, it's microtransactions. So if you want lures or more Pokeballs, you have to pay for them.
Okay.
There is, but it's not like you can't. It's not. How do I want to say this?
You can't advance unless you pay.
No. You can advance. It just takes you longer.
Okay.
So it's a way to, if you're going to spend the money, you'll power up quicker. But everyone can still get to the same place. It just takes time.
And I saw a thing where a guy had 3D printed a special case that helps you aim your Pokemon ball.
Yep. The Pokecatcher case, yeah. I thought that was pretty cute.
And there's a way to start off with Pikachu, I read. When you first start the game, if you walk away from your selections 3 times, then on the 4th time, Pikachu will be an option. So.
Yep. So if you haven't played yet, there you go. If you want a Pikachu, otherwise you have to wait till you find one live.
And that means what? If you get a Pikachu?
Well, Pikachu, the Pokemon anime, Pikachu was the Pokemon of the lead. He was the favorite Pokemon of the main character. So.
I mean, other than just being a friendly companion, is he super powerful or anything? Or?
No.
No,
he's actually just one of the weaker ones.
He's just Pikachu. And,
he's the pretty much the
popular.
Staple. Yeah, he's the staple of the market basically.
And he grows up to be something like
no,
not really.
Don't they turn into other things as they mature?
Yeah.
No, they stay Pikachu. They just grow. So it's like,
no, you could feed them an evolution and make them and force them to evolve.
Okay,
my son plays it heavily, so yeah, I have become very well versed in Pokemon Go.
Oh no, I know Pikachu and Team Rocket blasting off. That's about all I know from the series. So.
And there's the red team and the blue team, Mystic and something.
There's 3 teams technically, red, blue, and yellow.
All right. Yeah, you're educating me because my kids try to tell me about it, and I'm like, that's nice, go away. Maybe I should get involved. It'd be an opportunity to have some quality time with my children. But I know the moment I do, because there's only a couple of phones in the house that can do it, I'm going to lose my phone. It's going to be, Dad, I need your phone. There's a sticky wicket or something.
Well, no, because if you
a Bulbasaurus.
If it's under your phone, it won't be their Pokemon because it's tied to a login account of some way, either a Google login or a Pokemon Trainers login.
Right. So they'll just log in on my app, or they don't really care if it's my account or their account. Whatever. We've given this, and I don't mean to dismiss it. If you like it, all you people out there, I'm a firm believer that not everything has to be for everybody. This thing is not for this body. It doesn't bother me if it is your thing. I didn't get that gene. I'm not interested in that. In the same way that I'm not interested in fashion, I'm not interested in that. In the same way I don't like liver, I'm not interested. It is that much of a visceral. Well, I started to say dislike. It's not a dislike. It's a complete and utter apathy. I mean, I would have to be unconscious to care any less about Pokemon Go.
And just like people make fun of me for the stuff I like, feel free to, and I will make fun of you for Pokemon Go. It's okay. I don't get offended.
I was going to say, the one benefit I say that Pokemon Go has is my son has never walked to the park as much as he has in the last couple of weeks, and willingly taken his sister to the park.
Okay. And I hope that good things come from it.
And, it's just one of these things. People need to be smart when they are out and about, whether you have a cell phone playing Pokemon Go or you're just out taking a stroll in the neighborhood. Don't be stupid. The real world still exists whether you have your phone or not. So, and that's something that, as adults, we need to practice and model in addition to teach younger people.
Yeah, all right. Moral of the story,
Don't be stupid.
Don't be stupid. I like it. Okay, let's move into some other people who are stupid, but they have raised stupid to a high art form, and that's ISPs. Specifically, Verizon now has decided that you can use your old router. You don't have to get a new one, but you're going to pay us for the privilege of using the one that you bought.
Yeah, this is starting, I believe it's next week. There will be a $2.80 monthly fee for Fios customers with old equipment. Now, I mean, okay, the routers are 10 years old, and of course, Verizon says, well, these break down more, and so we need to have a way to recoup the service charge because the excess money we're making off the data caps and the plans aren't enough. So here's just another revenue stream for us. So, it's one of those things. You either have to pay to use your old stuff or you have to buy new stuff, and you really have to buy it from us or we won't guarantee it works. So yay, Verizon, they're going hard, challenging Comcast for the crappiest ISP in the USA award. So this will put them in the running, I think.
Well, and a second trick like unto it that you've listed here is that for those, because they're having a hard time getting fees, because Verizon's been the unlimited sanction powerhouse for a while, you can still keep your unlimited data plan. We're not taking it away from you. We're just going to cut it off if you actually use it.
Yeah, if you use more than 100 gigs a month, you will be disconnected from the network on August 31st. So they will cancel your plan. They won't just cut you off for the month. They will cancel your plan if you dare to use the unlimited data. Because, it's one of those things. They haven't sold unlimited data for a while, but people have kept it and gone month to month. And you can still keep it. You just can't use it. So,
right. Well, to be fair, the article here on Ars Technica says for people who have unlimited plans and use significantly more than 100 gigs a month. So significantly is their wiggle word there. It could be 102 gigs. It could be a terabyte. And I think this is all about the abusers. Door-to-Door Geek is fond of saying that he abuses his wireless plan. And they're going to go after him. And not by slowing him down, not by cutting him off, but just by canceling his account. That's crazy talk right there.
Here's the thing. It's freaking unlimited.
Right.
It's Verizon's fault for not looking ahead enough to realize that there were other ways to bleep customers out of money, and this is one of them. But, so people are using, and here's the thing, the 100 gig plan costs $450 a month. So the old unlimited plan wasn't that. So it's ridiculous. Data caps have 5% to do with network management because, they do help manage the networks, but 95% to do with increasing the ISP's bottom line. And I just wish, the reason I hate this so much is because all of these companies are de facto monopolies created by the government. So, it's not like this one company broke through and said, hey, we invented this and if you want to use our stuff, you have to pay our price. This is like the government said there can only be one of these cable companies here, and so therefore, and I know Verizon's not a cable company, but, if your choice is a cable company or a phone company and those two get together and say, you get this half of the territory and we'll get this half of the territory and we won't intermingle, those kind of agreements exist everywhere. And so because these monopolies were artificially created and maintained by the government, then the government has a responsibility to keep crap like this from happening.
Yeah, and if you don't want me to have, AT&T, I think, handled it well. They had unlimited plans, and they wanted people to get rid of them. And so their simple thing was, if you make any change at all to your plan, you're no longer unlimited. So in my case, when I went from 3G to 4G, there's no such thing as a 4G unlimited plan. So in order to get the speed, I had to get off the unlimited plan. When my wife needed a nano SIM for her phone, there's no such thing as a nano SIM on AT&T's unlimited plan. In order to get a new SIM card, I could have cut down my old one, but in order to get a new SIM card, that 25-cent piece of plastic they had to take me off the unlimited plan. So that's draconian, but at least they're being intellectually honest about it. We don't want you to have this, and we're going to set restrictions. Verizon says, if you use the thing that you paid for, we're done with you.
Wow. It just surprises me that they're going to... I mean, I understand that the business has the right to fire their customer, but, man, that's kind of low life to fire your customer because they're using what they've purchased from you.
I mean, Seth, I don't see you have it in here, but like unto it is Netflix said they were going to grandfather their prices, and they did for a couple of years, and now the grandfathering is over. Everybody got a price raise, or actually the people who were still paying the cheaper rates got a price raise, and people freaked out about that because you made a promise and you broke your promise.
A lot of people left, and Netflix was shocked. They were shocked and appalled at how many people left over a couple of dollars a month difference. And so I was like, unfortunately, because Americans have traditionally been so pathetic at managing money and savings, a couple of dollars a month is make it or break it for most people because there's no emergency fund, there's no anything like that. And so all of a sudden, it's an extra $25-$30 a year I have to pay for Netflix when I already have Amazon Prime. And true, there's a lot of stuff on Netflix you don't get on Amazon Prime, but between my Amazon Prime and my cable and YouTube and Spotify and Pandora and all these other things I have, I can get most of what's on Netflix. So that's what we'll do.
Well, except for the new Netflix-only content. So they're
right.
It's a 1-2 punch. They've really started investing in original content. Netflix, Daredevil. In fact, there's a whole new series they just recently released. Teaser trailers. No, for
Luke Cage.
Luke Cage and the Defenders. So Luke Cage gets his own series, and the Defenders, which is Iron Fist, Daredevil, Luke Cage, and Jessica Jones. So they're doubling down on their original content, all while making sure that for the things that you said, Seth. Now you can't go there, and frankly, I'm fine with that. If you have enough original content that it's worth the $9 a month, then this is not a problem. What I have a problem with is you made me a promise, and the promise was your rates won't go up, and then you added a little codicil a couple of years later. Oh yeah, we meant your rates wouldn't go up right away. And when a company makes a promise like unlimited bandwidth, that's a promise. Yeah, and when you break that promise, it frustrates me that there's no penalty for that. Like under law, there is no penalty for Verizon being scumbags here. Because they can make a promise, they can say one thing, they can break that promise, and the only two choices are deal with it or leave.
Well, no, see, they didn't break their promise. They modified their terms of agreement. So, and you don't have a choice. Your choice is
stop using the service.
You don't. I mean, but I can't say, hey, guess what? I lost my job. I'm only going to pay you half, but I'm going to get the same service. They're not okay with that.
Yeah, it's like if I just decided one day to pay my mortgage payment, just pay half of it. And, I'm modifying the terms of our agreement. I'm only going to pay half of it. That wouldn't work.
Oh, no. They would jump up and down and scream and holler if you pulled that trick.
Or maybe the next time I get a tax bill, maybe I just pay half my taxes and say, look, I'm unhappy with the service that my government has been providing. I'm unhappy with the level of engagement that I've been getting from my federal government. So I'm just not going to pay the full federal income tax. I'm just going to pay half of that because I'm modifying the terms of our agreement. Somehow I don't think that would work. I would be modifying the terms of my jail cell.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much.
But if you're a business, if you're Verizon, if you're too big to fail, then fine, do whatever you want. And if people don't like it, well, they can leave. Oh, no way, they can't leave because we created a monopoly. So if you want cell phone service, you have to do this.
Oh, yeah, because like in my area, if I wanted to change providers to something other than Verizon, ain't going to happen. There's no provider in the area that has the level of service that Verizon has here. Just the way it is out in the boonies, I guess.
And it's probably unrelated, but in terms of bad business decisions, Verizon has also decided to buy Yahoo. How in the world is that a good business decision? Hey, we're Verizon. We're known for having the fastest data network. Let's also buy a failing company that doesn't even know what kind of company it is. Are they search? Are they media? Are they fashion? Are they news? Who knows? Let's pay $5 billion for them. How are we going to finance that? By getting rid of all those sluggards who are using our unlimited data plans.
Yeah, I don't, I'm Yahoo from way back in the day. My, my username actually shows you how long I've been there. And Yahoo was Google before Google. They were awesome. You could search I loved the My Yahoo page until they started stripping away all the useful features of it before they finally removed it altogether. And now I wonder, because I use my Yahoo email address for so much, what's going to happen when that's a Verizon thing, and I'm going to have an option of the crappy web-based version that's only up 2 hours every 8th Thursday of the month, or the Verizon's going to offer me an internet fast lane for my Yahoo email. I'm going to be, Yahoo, you so screwed the pooch. I don't understand. But I mean, there are some things Yahoo does really well. Some of their news and their sports and things like that are, a lot of their sports reporting is on par with ESPN. You can go. A lot of Yahoo News is nothing more than copying and pasting from business journals or other websites, but there is a lot of good. There are some things Yahoo still does really well that they haven't screwed up yet.
I think they have the best fantasy football league, including the ESPN.
Yep.
I think they're better than that.
I do.
The good news is that Verizon doesn't actually get any of that. The term does not include any of the intellectual property. So for $5 billion, I get buildings and employees, but none of the actual good stuff. Anything that might actually be useful, no, we don't get that. That doesn't count.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Weird.
It. But, very strange.
I guess the other question now is, if Verizon is now an ISP, they now purchased a search company, are they going to, they're obviously going to be doing deep packet inspection now. Are they going to start trying to out-Google Google?
Well, I would love that. I would love somebody to out-Google Google. But the idea that the combination of Verizon and Yahoo could do that is as laughable as me solving Einstein's field theory. It's not even in the realm of possibility.
Because look at Microsoft. They have the browser, they have the computer desktop, they have the second major search engine in America, and I was going to say phone, but never mind. But they have like the Xbox player and all of that, and they're not even up to Google yet. So.
And in the meanwhile, Google is trying to be Verizon. They're trying to be Comcast. They're trying to expand beyond their horizons. I'm a little uncomfortable with Google being as powerful as they are, but they got there by being really good.
Yep.
And Verizon's trying to get there by being manipulative instead of good. And I have a problem with that. And moving on along, crappy ISP, CenturyLink. Not a lot of people have CenturyLink. They're not a big one. I used to have them back in Texas. They've decided that their excessive amount is now 300 gigs a month on your home. All right, so we're not talking mobile data anymore. You're going to get charged $50, or we'll just cancel your service, whichever we decide.
Oof.
Yeah, their regular plan, I don't know how much it is, and then for every 50 gigs over 300, it's an extra $10. And then if you get over 500 gigs a month, they'll cap the total additional charge at $50, but they could kick you off and just say, we don't want you anymore. So you don't use the internet that you pay us access to. You can't watch Netflix, you can't watch Amazon Prime, you can't do YouTube or Spotify or Pandora. 4 different kids in the house, each one 24/7 streaming Netflix. 500 gigs, that is going to fall by the wayside fast.
Yep.
And so
I can vouch for all of that.
Yeah, and again, the reason, and they're just doing this in a test market to see how many people complain before they roll it out nationally. The reason they can get away with this is there is no competition. There isn't someone else you can jump ship and go to. If there was, they wouldn't get away with this.
Actually, I like those terms. I think that's a reasonable term, $10 per gigabit until capped at a maximum of 50. And that's the problem. They set terms that were too reasonable, and so now we've got to go back on them. We made you a promise, and now we have to break it because it turns out that we were reasonable, and reasonable ISPs just can't exist.
I'm sadly, yes.
I have nothing else to say other than it's crap.
Chris, what's your? I know that you go over your limit every month there. What is your cap?
I would have to double check to tell you the truth, but I think if I hit over 300 gigabytes, I start paying after that.
Yeah, and that seems to be about the standard. Just last month, July, I think, Verizon announced that they're raising that to a terabyte. So they're sort of being the unprovider, which is weird that Verizon would actually do something pro-consumer, but they went from, I think it was 300 before, to now a terabyte. And if you go over that, there is an overage. That so far there's been no thought of cutting you off or just dumping your service. But it just seems weird that when your competitor is loosening the range, you got Google coming in with unlimited Google Fiber, and they're trying to go everywhere, and Comcast / Xfinity raising their rates. Why would you go so far as to say we don't want you as a customer anymore? We're going to end our relationship because you're using our service too much. It just seems so ridiculously tone deaf. But like you said, Seth, there's no other choice. They are the bully, and you have no choice but to deal with it.
Yep.
And I don't want to have to tell my kids, turn off the internet. I'm always walking into rooms now saying, turn off the lights. Close the door. You're air conditioning the outside. Yes, I've become that parent. You're air conditioning the outside. Close the door. Now I'm going to have to say, don't walk away from Netflix. Pause it when you leave the room. Because we're going to be looking at that kind of world again.
Yeah, pretty much. I do that already. I just yesterday I told my kids, hey, we gotta stop because you're killing me on bandwidth when you leave it running, after you leave. And I've caught my daughter leaving Hulu running. Hulu doesn't stop, in case you guys didn't know. If you're watching a season and it's a really long stretch season, Hulu will keep playing.
Yeah, 22 hours.
Stop.
Just going. Yeah.
Yep.
One of my cord cutting things that I've been using is the PlayStation Vue service, and it's like that. You put the live TV on and it'll just go. And so my kids will turn the TV off, which only turns the display off. It turns the sound and the picture off, but it's still going there in the background. And I had to educate them. Okay, before you turn this off, you got to press exit a couple of times on the remote to get back out of this app. And they've adjusted to that. But it's just what a weird world that I'm living in, where I would even have to have that conversation with my children.
Yeah.
Bits are free. Bits is bits, people. It's charging for bits is wrong. It's charging for the wrong thing. Now, charge for the speed, the capacity. We've had this conversation before. Charge me for my bandwidth. That is a reasonable thing. As Seth said, that's network management. That makes sense. But charging me for the number of bits that come through my pipe is ridiculous. It just doesn't cost you more to send data through a pipe or not send data through a pipe. It only costs you more for how much data you send at any one time.
Well, the thing that costs them more is if it comes from outside their network. Then there's all the relational agreements and the internet toll lanes that from crossing from one provider to another.
Right, but then even those terms are in terms of amount of capacity, not bits. Those aren't metered connections. They're bandwidth connections. And the idea is if I have X number of people pulling from this thing that costs me money, it costs me money. And so instead of dealing with the problem, they've just decided to stick a meter on it. And I've come out in favor of this before, saying if you're going to do that, that's fine. Reasonably price the bits at some fraction of a penny per bit, and give me an obvious meter. Like I can walk outside and look at my electric meter, read the numbers, and know how much my bill is going to be. I can't do that. Chris, you don't have that option. You can't.
Not really.
You can't see at any one point in time. And if you could, it's up to you. You've got to install some endpoint device on your network You know, it's not there's not a device plugged into your house. So we've set up a payment method that we can't really back it. We can't prove it. We just have to take their word for it. Oh yeah, you use this much.
Yep. There's no real way. Like I just pulled up my account right now to see what I could find. So I was mistaken. I have a 400 gigabyte limit, not 300. So I guess I got to give them a little bit there. But I'm still, on average, I'm over by at least 100 gigs a month.
Mm.
Yeah.
So
and
my bill is right around $250 just for internet, and local and basic telephone.
So if you were a CenturyLink customer, you'd be in danger of having your account summarily disconnected for using that much data.
Yeah, I would. And with the way my family burns through data, it would be that way every month.
Yeah, I pay with taxes, and I lease the radio rather than purchase it, because that way, if it ever goes out, they come fix it. And lightning in East Texas is a possibility. So I pay $111 with taxes, and I get up to 8 megs, but I have unlimited. And 8 megs is fine for one person. I can stream Netflix, and my dad can be on Facebook watching videos, and don't buffer. So and luckily it's unlimited. So I can't pull it down as fast, but I can pull all hours of the night.
And what you just said there a couple of times, Netflix and Hulu and all these other guys, they're pushing now for 4K content, that's not 4K is 4 times the resolution of HD, but it's not 4 times. It's not a logarithmic. It's more like 16 times the bandwidth to pull 4K. So as content gets more, this bandwidth problem is going to become a crippling agent at some point. It's going to be where we cannot have the things that we want because the infrastructure is built incorrectly. And that's really all there is to it. Now,
and is it built incorrectly, or is it modeled incorrectly? Because
the finance infrastructure is built incorrectly. Yes. The hardware is fine. The hardware works, but the financial infrastructure, the way it's laid out, is you're just charging for the wrong thing. And it's because, like everything else, when it's new, you don't know, so you have to compare it to something that you do know. And so I don't blame Verizon and Comcast and CenturyLink for making mistakes. I blame them for screwing their users for the consequences of those mistakes.
Yeah. Because now we're trying to find ways of saving bandwidth instead of not worrying about it.
Yeah, and the only reason CenturyLink still exists is because the federal government gave them monopoly over us, because they're a terrible company. Everybody agrees. Comcast too. Comcast has the lowest customer approval rating, like, in history. Like it's in the negative 5,000s. I don't know, but it routinely, every year that these surveys are done, Comcast is at the bottom. The only reason they're in business is not because they treat their customers well, but because people don't have a choice. And deregulation would change the landscape dramatically, and I think positively. It would be a bit of a nightmare for a couple of years, but everybody would improve in the long run. That's my prediction. And I think it's going to come to that because we just can't continue in the model that we are now.
But in the meantime, they're going to keep harvesting their users' bank accounts for all they're worth for as long as they can.
And that's where you get companies like Google. They don't have to play by these rules because they're running their own lines. The whole point of the monopolies we talked about were using public telephone lines and public right-of-ways and public thoroughfares. Google is just doing it themselves. Verizon Fios, they did the same thing. They dug all their own stuff, and it's failing. They didn't make enough money out of it, so that's a failed experiment. Google, fortunately, has billions of dollars to throw at it, and they're going to keep throwing money at it until something happens. But that's what it takes. You can't use a public thoroughfare. You can't run your lines through the city access unless you play by these rules. So Google just says, fine, we'll buy all the land we want to run over. We'll microwave it. We'll do whatever we need to do. And that's what's going to happen is these other people. Unfortunately, it takes a multi-billion-dollar company to do it. But somebody right now in their garage is working on a solution that fixes this. A terabit Wi-Fi it's a thing.
And then Verizon buys them and shelves the technology.
Well, that's possible. That is entirely
How do you know
possible.
that hasn't happened?
You don't. I mean,
Prove-
how do
yeah,
we know
prove
that the
to me-
100 mile per gallon carburetor isn't sitting in Exxon's vault somewhere? You don't.
Yeah.
Fun times, fun times.
I would hope not. But
Well, I had a transition, but our conversation went away from it. So, Flash is dying, and Google has already declared war on it. Now Firefox is declaring war on it, the Mozilla Foundation.
Yes, so Firefox will begin the process of retiring Adobe Flash on August 2nd with the release of Firefox 48, and then with Firefox 53, probably later the same day, Flash plugins will require the user to actively click to play. So like if you go to Chrome now and you go to something that uses Flash, you get the little box that says, this is Flash, do you really want to do this? And then you click, yes, I'm stupid, I really want to do it. And it's not, but there's just a lot of stuff out there that's Flash content. And, it's okay. I love to bash it, but yay, poor Flash. The internet, you helped bring the internet of age, and so, there's a fond place in the cemetery for you we have reserved. But, so yeah, and then so eventually they're going to get to where it is a thing of the past, and I don't know what's going to happen to educational websites now. Finally have to get out of XP and upgrade past IE6, and, I guess they'll have to move on to some other browser.
In my daily life, the two things I can think of that require Flash are the speedtest.net website and ads. Those are the only two things in my world that are Flash in my everyday life. And it's probably the case for a lot of people.
Yeah,
even if they don't realize it.
Right.
There was a game site I liked, andcon.com. They're Flash games. So, you kind of got to have. And so what I did was the ones I liked, I downloaded years ago. And so I'll just open up a browser and point to that file and play it locally. So I guess I'm going to have to go get a standalone version of Firefox and don't let it update or something. So I'll be able to do that in the future.
And the problem with Flash is the same problem that Java ran into, is it's too powerful. It is a full-on virtual machine environment. And that makes it able to do all sorts of cool stuff like games and internet speed tests and ads. But it gives it too much power. But prior to Flash was Shockwave. And Shockwave was even more powerful, and it sort of died because it was too resource hungry.
Right.
I can't recall the last time I saw a Shockwave enabled element anywhere. It died on its own, but the Adobe people were good at keeping Flash nimble. It's still relatively small bits of code, as is Java, but it's just too much, and people don't need that much power. And I like Firefox's methodology. It's still there. You can still do it. We're just going to make you click it so that you understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fine way to do it, other than just, Apple's no Flash ever, no matter what. Flash is dead in 2007. No, Flash wasn't dead in 2007.
Yeah, but you could
now.
argue they helped to kill it. So, but I think I would love for DC, the comics, to do, create a one-shot character, a one-shot graphic novel where the Flash was like killed by a supervillain named Firefox, or the Fox of Fire, Judy Man,
cool.
or something like that. I just think that would be a cool way to get some. That could be, what is that synergy between comics and search engines and web browsers? That would be awesome.
Yeah, I call it the death of the Flash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be good.
It would be cool.
Well, as Flash is dying, the drone economy is being birthed. 7-Eleven just made its first delivery of donuts by a drone this week.
Yes, so they're just testing it now. It's not available everywhere, but this happened in Reno. So what happened was 7-Eleven looked at this store, and then they said, "Hey, let's test a drone out of here." So they did some publicity and said, "Hey, somebody who lives like within a couple of miles. Would anybody be interested in home delivery from 7-Eleven? So, this guy ordered a chicken sandwich, donuts, coffee, candy, and some Slurpees. And the goods were packaged into 2 containers, and they were separately flown to his home. The containers were lowered to the ground and retrieved by homeowners. So, all of this talk about Amazon, the drones are coming. There's been some funny commercials about them. 7-Eleven, the first public delivery. So, I guess there's some private stuff between companies or whatever, but this was the first public one that I know about and that The Verge could find out happen in America. Anyway, I don't know. Japan probably transports via mental telepathy and giant mecha by now, but we're trying to get drones going. So
what made this so cool to me was that it was fully autonomous. There wasn't a human at the controls, and that's kind of cool. And I see this as the future. I really do. As the technology gets better, the UPS guy is going to be replaced by small autonomous flying vehicles, and that doesn't bother me at all, because a lot of what, like just taking my own Amazon purchases, for example, UPS delivers every one of them because of the deal that they get. Most of them are small and light. I don't order a lot of heavy stuff, so the heavy stuff can go on trucks. The 20% of my purchases, the other 80% can be handled by these small autonomous short range vehicles. And I'm watching a video here that you'll be able to link to from our notes. It shows that the vehicle stayed about, I'm going to say 50 feet up in the air and lowered the cargo by a rope. That's important for a couple of reasons. One, it keeps them out of the danger zone, right? Those things are dangerous and they can hurt people. Also, It's going to keep your dog from jumping up on it. As you get close to the ground, the rotor wash is what makes these things more difficult to control. Not that the autonomous systems can't do it, but because turbulence and things like that uses more energy. So it was a really smart design to do all that, and currently you had to have somebody go get it. But I could easily see a simple quick release mechanism, and they'd be able to drop that thing right on my front porch with just as much accuracy as the UPS guy does. It's going to be a decade. But I, for one, am all for this, not just because I'm a drone enthusiast, but because I think it's a more efficient and effective way of doing things. The energy consumption is going to be much less than that big diesel engine rumbling down the street.
So what you're saying, Mark, is that you are in favor of eliminating American jobs. That's what I heard you say.
My opponent may try to put words in my mouth by saying such like that. I have always been for the American worker, and that has never changed.
Yeah, they're just going to have to go work somewhere else because you can't deliver stuff anymore.
We're eliminating the jobs that the Americans don't want.
There you go.
And solving the NAFTA issue all in one shot.
Man, you got to, you can't be hired unless you have experience, but you can't get experience unless you're hired. And what we're doing is systematically eliminating all of the entry-level positions in the workforce. So eventually your first job is going to be a CEO of a company run of drones, and that's going to be the only job available anymore until Skynet officially takes over, and then you just become power.
I hear you, I understand you, but nobody misses the blacksmith or the gas lamplighter. Remember in the old days? No, you don't remember because none of us were around. But in the old days, street lights were gas powered, and they actually paid a person to go around with a match and light all the gas lights. That was a job. And when Edison invented the electric light bulb and the power distribution system, that person lost his job, and the world was better off for it. Sorry, one guy who lost your job. The world was better off because of it. And if the UPS guy loses his job but the rest of the world gets better, I have no problem with that. Welcome to the wheels of progress. Nobody misses the wheelwright. The guy who just bended metal around wooden frames to make wheels for wagons. That was the real wheelwright. That was his name. Nobody misses him. He's gone. Now it's JJ's Tire Shop. They do the same thing but in a different way. So, yeah. Get off your high horse, Seth. I'm not buying it here.
No, I'm just, this is...
We got to represent all viewpoints. I understand.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it was there. It was an opening. I had
Right.
to take it. It was, and I thought I landed good anyway, regardless of your denial.
In the news that's just too weird for me to understand, France takes his puts his sights on Microsoft for collecting too much data from Windows 10 users. Now, France has already been pretty anti-Google, but now they're being fair about it, and they're being anti-Microsoft too, because your computer knows stuff.
Yes. So, and they ordered Microsoft to stop tracking Windows 10 users, and they're kind of already in violation of some EU tracking policies. And France is just saying you have three. I don't know what France can do, but what Microsoft is collecting it under the Safe Harbor Agreement that was invalidated by the EU court system back in October. So they basically have 3 months. It's like, they're saying stop, or we'll say stop again.
Right.
And we're giving you 3 months this time. So, there's a ton of stuff that Microsoft collects. And if you like the Cortana, thinking that this time you're going to ask for a triple decaf soy latte grande with a shot of plankton and animal crap or whatever you put in your and so it's going to say, would you like to order this? If you like that, good. But if you're somebody who clings to the illusion of privacy because it doesn't really exist anymore, then yay, France.
Yeah.
Okay.
Computers have to know stuff to do stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of the whole way it all works.
What cracks me up, though, about this whole article is that France estimates that in the entire country there are 10 million Windows 10 users. That's a very, very small number for a whole country. That's, just saying. Windows 10 hasn't exactly had a huge penetration.
At least not yet.
And maybe the quote is from earlier in the year before
According to anonymous strangers on the internet, and in 2013 the census data shows that France has 66 million people. So they're estimating that one in every 6.6 people is using Windows 10. Really? I mean, why wouldn't you go after Google, where I would say 6 in every 6 people are using Google products? It's just an odd target, and it just seems like a way to
aim
make
for the ones you can hit.
I guess.
So start with Microsoft.
And of course it was, like you said, stop or else they stop again. It's you've got 3 months to stop doing this. We're not going to know how you stop doing it, and we're not going to really know what you're telling you to. Just stop. Stop being Microsoft.
Well, no, what'll happen is they will give you, there'll be like some opt-out thing. Like there'll be some, Microsoft security update 303.78.192 that when you install it, it will prop up a dialog box and says, you are giving us permission to track these things. Do you want us to continue to do so? And then so there'll be no. And then the next month there'll be Microsoft 303.7.1.1.1.1 that invalidates that previous update, and nobody will know different. That's what they do. Microsoft gives you the choice that you complained for, and then they take that away and substituted the choice they wanted you to make. So that's all that's going to happen here.
Yeah. France
is going to save face and win for a month, and then it'll be business as usual.
It's going to be like the browser ballot all over again.
Yeah.
And Seth, I often change your headlines because, I just don't think they flow as smoothly. This may be the best headline you've ever written, and I'm going to read it word for word. Microsoft brings Skype to Linux, finds it still populated by spoiled brats.
I worked hard on that one. So Skype has released an alpha version for Linux. So give them a break, people. It's alpha. But alpha implies beta, which implies polished release. So, again, they didn't release a final product. They said, hey, this is the alpha of what we're working on. It's going to look different, and it's going to be filled out by the time we get there. But you spoiled brats have complained loud enough and long enough. We'd rather hire some developers than listen to you, bleep and moan all the time. And so, what did all the spoiled brats do? They bleeped and moaned some more and said, I can't believe this is, it's not open source, blah, 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 blah. And so it's these kind of idiots are the reason that Microsoft exists, because they can't, they're so mad because it's not open source. How dare you have a non-open source thing on Linux? So therefore, we're just going to complain, and nobody's going to take it seriously because of that. But so anyway, it's an alpha. It doesn't work. You don't get the full feature set, but Microsoft is this is not the Microsoft of yesteryear. They are an open source. They are a software company that has both open sourced and closed source projects. This is a closed source project that they are bringing to Linux in order, a lot of web runs on Linux, and there are a lot of Linux distros out there that are very polished, and this removes one of the barriers as to why people can't use Linux in business.
And it's built on open source standards. So they took the WebRTC, which is an open source real-time communication product, and they built a closed source engine around it. And that's what people are mad about. So they're saying, you used open source stuff to build closed source stuff. Well, yeah. And everybody does that. Oh, that's the beauty of open source. You can do that. And they're saying that this isn't any better than other products. Okay, it's alpha. Shut up. Stop whining.
You could use that same argument to talk about 798,263 of the 798,264 Linux distributions that are out there. They don't do anything this other one doesn't do. Why do we have them? It's the same argument. So anyway, I just I was so proud of my title on that one. I just got to talk a little.
Yeah, basically it's the neckbeards just aren't going to like anything Microsoft does because it's Microsoft.
Right.
Yeah, that's the way I read this.
It's back down to the religious war.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's the people griping are the reason that people don't look at Linux, because somebody's going to go look at Linux and says, "Hey, how do I install a distro?" RTFM, you stupid noob, by 1,000 people, and by the time somebody says, "Hey, if you'll go click on this program, but you're 20 pages into the comments before you find the helpful advice," well, that person's going to tell everybody they know, "I'm not going to try Linux. That's ridiculous." And so if these people had a better attitude, the year of Linux desktop would have came and went. And, this would have been the Linux millennium. But no, we're still fighting.
I've said this many times. I'll say it again. The greatest attribute that the open source community has is its members. The greatest liability the open source community has is its members. And Seth, I really think you nailed this, that Microsoft reaches out to the Linux community and says, here's one of our flagship products, and we're going to make a new version, new and improved for Linux, and the response is, well, yeah, well, F you for trying.
Pretty much. That's exactly what happened. So, man, this if anything, reading this story makes me have sympathy for Microsoft. So,
and that takes a lot.
Honestly, I don't know if I would have that far. That's kind of reaching there.
Microsoft is not the company it was. Well, this is not the Bill Gates Microsoft. It just isn't. They're changing so many ways that they do things. I mean, and this whole Windows is essentially a software subscription now. They've pretty much come right out and said that, which is so antithetical to selling software, which is what they've done so many times before. It is Microsoftian in that it's will forever get money from you, but it's just a very different company, and I think we may see in the next couple of decades, and I believe they're going to be around for the foreseeable future. My life will not end before Microsoft's, or my life will end before Microsoft's life ends. I believe that they will be around the day I die. But I think it's going to be a very different company because the old 1985 way of doing things just can't exist in this modern environment. And good on them for seeing it. We just spent an hour talking about companies that didn't see that and are still trying to do things the old way. So, I'm not a Microsoft apologist, but I do make my living for Microsoft, so I spend a lot of time using their stuff. So I just
does.
I applaud them for recognizing that this is not 1990 and they can't do things the way they did. And there are going to be some missteps, but great on them for trying. And so I for one want to go on record as saying Microsoft is a changed company, and it's changed for the better in terms of open source development and adoption. They are no longer trying to eradicate the open source community, but trying to embrace it. Instead, the open source community is kicking them in the balls every chance they get. And I get it, right? For so long, we were the enemy, and they were the enemy. The Microsoft was anti-open source, and they wanted to crush any open source thing. But now they're actively contributing to open source projects. They're on the Linux Foundation. It's a very different thing. We need to recognize that if they can change, we can change.
And should.
Yeah. Sorry, this is a return to everyday Linux, people. Just for a little bit.
We're still the same guys, just a new name. So yeah, I just the pedantry never ceases to amaze me, and this is what this is. We've released something. So Microsoft would have been better off not releasing this and only testing it in-house from a public relations perspective. But they and they're a big enough company, they could have done it. But they wanted to dogfood it. They wanted to get out there. Tell us what you think. Let's get your input. Microsoft doesn't do that. They don't get input from users, ever. They tell you what you want.
Or they wait till they sell you the product to get input.
Right.
So, they're calling it alpha. And to be honest, this article brought out that not everybody dogged them. There were people who said, hey, I understand this isn't perfect, but way to go, Microsoft, for trying. So, if you don't read the article, our telling of it would be tainted a little bit. But that is in there as well. But the old Linux guard, unfortunately, has got to get out of the way. It was needed to protect the Linux world from the Microsofts and the Oracles that would have sought to destroy it in its infancy, but it's matured to the point to where it can stand on its own, and Microsoft has realized that, and now Microsoft is seeing the open source world has a revenue stream. And you can't be mad at that because Red Hat sees the open source world has a revenue stream, and you aren't dogging Red Hat, so you can't dog Microsoft. It's time. Couldn't we do more together? Can't we all just get along?
And something I want to point out, I don't think we have been clear about it. This article and our discussion about it makes it sound like Skype for Linux didn't exist before. It does. Chris is using it now and uses it every week. But it hasn't been updated in 10 years.
Oh, yeah. It's very dated, and you can see it whenever you look at it. It looks pretty darn old.
And because Linux has been updated, it doesn't work as well as it did even when it was old back then. So,
I mean, just today, as early as an hour and a half ago, Chris had to tweak some stuff on his Skype installation because it worked fine last week. He shut down his computer. He brought it back up. It doesn't work. And that's the kind of things that happen when software gets stale. And so I appreciate Microsoft's effort to bring the Linux community into this product because they abandoned us. They had official Linux releases for a while, and then they stopped. And it was out there, and it's in the repositories, and you can get it, but it's dead. It's abandonware. It still works, thankfully. It works really well. I use it on my Linux laptop. Chris uses it on his. It's there. But this is an overt attempt by Microsoft to say, let us include you on our newest and best. And that's new. That is an entirely new attitude for Microsoft.
And appreciated. I really wish that this would have started sooner. Maybe we wouldn't be having this type of a discussion on something that should have been worked on, even light work on, in the last 5 years.
But hey, Microsoft only made like $20 billion last quarter, and only like 2.1 of it was profit. So they just had to allocate their resources, and circle back around in this thing they pinned in the previous meeting for us to get access to it today.
I as a Windows using Linux user, embrace this and say, Microsoft, if you want to wrap your arms around the Linux community, this is one Linux user that will accept that warm hug.
Oh, I think it. I'm actually hoping they do. I think it's an interesting thought when you start looking at the way the world is moving. Windows isn't in the right place. I think they're woefully behind a thought where Linux is a little bit better when it comes to something as simple as multi-userness. How many times have at least I've seen where multiple users on a machine, you have one user cause problems with the other user without meaning to.
Yeah, just by being.
Yeah, just by being. So Linux does a better job when it comes to that, but and then there's all the other fun stuff that we talk about, that we try to disband when it comes to viruses and infections and all that other stuff. It's still here in Linux. It's just harder to do.
Right. All right. I think that horse is well and truly beaten and dead. So, Seth, tell us what happened this week in history.
All righty. So we're going to go back in time to 1962. July the 23rd, 1962, Telstar relays the first publicly transmitted live transatlantic television program, and it featured Walter Cronkite. So Telstar, of course, is a satellite, and so they beam stuff transatlantic, and that happened this week in history, 1962, 54 years ago.
Wow. And the world has been changed ever since.
Yep.
Transatlantic. So think about that. There aren't a lot of things today that are transatlantic. I mean, in 50 years later, there's BBC America and there's BBC. Netflix is transatlantic, but in terms of television, there just isn't much. These guys said, "Hey, let's cast some American television over the ocean," and the Brits looked at it and said, "Meh." It kind of stayed that way.
Yeah, but the Olympics happen.
That's
major
true.
sporting events are
World Cup,
transatlantic.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Major news is transatlantic. So now, but back then that was because that was 1960. 50 years before this, at about the time the Titanic went down, it took you, a couple of weeks, or at least a week to get across the ocean, and now you can see something live, and now, 50 years from this, you can have, really, for all practical purposes, real-time conversation transatlantic. So,
you can have real-time conversations in the Atlantic.
That's true.
That's kind of the amazing thing. Let's see, if I remember correctly, Philo Farnsworth invented the television in 1936, I think. So less than 30 years after it was invented, it became a global thing. And then 50 years later, television is barely even a thing. We watch media now, but it's television isn't really. We don't even think of it as television anymore.
But we still call it television, like we still dial a telephone.
Right, and hang up the phone. When was the last time you hung a phone anywhere, ever, for any reason?
Yeah, I can't think of one.
We have one at home.
Okay, but when on my Android,
lease.
On my slab of glass, when you dial, the button says dial, and when you want to stop, the button says hang up.
Or end.
Yeah, end is another one.
End a lot of calls.
Yes. I remember vividly my first cell phone experience, dialing the number and waiting, and nothing happened. And somebody said, "Oh, you have to hit the send button." Well, that's just stupid. Why would I have to hit the send? I already dialed the digits. Why would I have to hit send? I was a loudmouth even then.
It's nice to know nothing's changed.
I've done that before. I've hit the number and held it up to my ear, and I'm thinking it's taking a long time for this call to connect. And I look down and go, "Oh, dial."
So my phone and a lot of newer phones with proximity sensors, if you dial the number, put it to your ear, it'll go.
Yeah,
it senses that. Yeah, which is kind of cool.
You and your new phones, ooh.
Yeah. All right. This is the part of the show where I tell you how you can tell us what you think. If you would like to be like the unknown caller and leave your voicemail, you can dial 559-IM-OP and leave us a voicemail. If you'd like to be like Owen, who sent us an email, you can go to elementop.com, click the Contact Us button at the top of the page, fill out the form, which is what Owen did, and tell us what you think. Or if you want to be a rebel and you don't want to be like Owen or the unknown caller, you can send us an email directly at geekrant@elementop.com. That goes to all three of us, so I can't censor your wishes. And we love to hear what you think. We've covered a wide range of stuff here today, so there's lots of fodder for you to feedback. Let us know what you think, and we'll probably put it on the show because, we haven't had an original idea in like 4 years. We're kind of counting on you at this point.
Been a long time, people. Help us out.
Yeah, come on. We need the help.
All right, I think that's all I have to say. So, Seth, take us out of here with your link that will lower my productivity, thus making you look like a better hiring option.
Okay, this one has real potential to lower some productivity here. What it does is, if you're a fan of Late Night with Conan O'Brien, then you might have already seen this, but he got a bunch of comedians to, quote-unquote, audition for the young Han Solo. And so Bill Hader, Melissa McCarthy, Adam Sandler, Jeff Goldblum, to name a few, show up, and and it's just funny. So it's about 6 minutes long, but it's well worth it. You could watch this and then talk about it so much your boss fires you because you annoyed him, and thus you created a position for me. So this really fits the lower your productivity to make me a more attractive hire.
I like it.
Like I say, it's 6 minutes. So, and of course, obviously, it's a YouTube video, so it has sound, but it is safe for work. But I think it's funny.
Melissa McCarthy as Han Solo. That is both inspired and strange all at the same time.
They're funny.
She's got the wig.
Oh, and they have Curtis 50 Cent Jackson. They get him to do it, and his was really good too. So anyway,
I would play a few minutes of this, but then ironically, playing a YouTube video would get us pulled off of YouTube. So I won't do that. You'll just have to go check it out.
It's worth it. Go watch it.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to turn this off because I can't not watch this. All right, here we go. Now that we're done, this is where I say thanks for hanging out with us. We had a couple people live in the chat room and watching us. Although you just logged in and didn't say anything, guys, you kind of have to communicate a little bit. But we appreciate you hanging out with us. We do this show every Sunday night at somewhere around 7:30 p.m. Eastern. If you want to hang out live with us, we appreciate it. We like it when people hang out live. Also, it goes out on our YouTube secret, insider secret here. As soon as we hang up, yes. As soon as I hang up this conversation, put the computer back on the wall, the unedited feed of this goes live on YouTube. So you can watch this 3 whole days before those slackers who are listening to it in their RSS feed get it. And you get it unedited, so you can hear all of Chris's curse words that I cut out. So it's a pretty amazing thing. So check us out there. Also, obviously, we appreciate ratings and reviews anywhere, whether it's on YouTube or iTunes or Stitcher or whatever. You could do us a big favor and do that. And I haven't made a plug for it in a while. elementop.com/audible. It's the same deal everybody else gets. I'm not going to feed you the line about a special deal for listeners of this podcast. No, it's the same deal everybody gets. You get a free book if you sign up. Basically, here's the way it goes. You sign up, they send you a free book. A month later, they bill you and give you another free book. A month later, they bill you and give you another free book, except it's not free because they're billing you. But the first book's on us, on Audible. So sign up, check it out, and we get a very generous kickback. I mean, referral fee for that. So I encourage you to check it out. If you're a podcast listener, you're probably going to be an Audible listener. I know that it literally, I say this, in a joking way many times, but in this case, it truly did change my life. Audible changed my life. It restored to me the love of reading that I once had back when I had time to read. And now I listen to, anywhere between, depending on the book. I just finished Peter F. Hamilton's Pandora Star, 30 hours. That one took me a while. But I generally do a book or two a week in the car on the way to traffic. And so I really appreciate Audible. And so I'm making this pitch not just because I get a generous kickback, but because I really believe if you're a podcast listener, you're also probably going to be an Audible enjoyer. So check them out. Anyway, that's my pitch there. It would throw a little money our way. But mostly, go ye therefore and tell other people about the show. I hope you enjoy it. And if you do, tell others about it. So thanks for hanging out with us. And Chris, Seth, as always, thanks for being the best host I can afford on what I pay you, which is nothing.
Sure thing.
And we'll see you next week, because that's it for this episode of the Geek Rant.
Y'all come back now, you hear?
Toodles.
Quick, turn the air conditioner fan on and open the door. Oh, okay. Stopping the broadcast now as soon as I get my cursor back. Bye, everybody!